Chapter 3. The sun wakes me the next morning. I jump out of bed in a big hurry. It is going to be another blazing hot day, and I imagine sticky seats and desktops and heavy hair hanging in our classroom. But mostly I think about Miss Casey and how wonderful 5th grade is going to be. I put on my green shift, the one Gran made for me in the spring. It wasn't the best looking shift then, and 5 months later I am starting to pop out of it in a few places. I jam my feet into my old brown boots. They are the only shoes I ever wear, no matter what season, when I bother with shoes at all. Precious, why don't you let me braid your hair? Is Mama's greeting to me as I sit down to Gran's breakfast of eggs and biscuits. Oh, Mama, I say, braiding always takes so long. Just for your first day of school, she says. I think of standing there while Mama tugs and pulls. I look away. I tell her finally, and Mama gives up. I suspect I'm not looking my best for the first day of school. I don't think Miss Casey will mind loose hair, though. When breakfast is over, I always get a good big breakfast. I rush around gathering up the things I need for school. Notebook, pencil case, change purse, lunch in a bag. Bye, Mama. Bye, Gran. I call as I run out the door. I fly across our yard and wait by the road. I can see the school bus wheezing up our hill. The bus draws to a stop, and I wave madly at Burnett, the driver, before she opens the door. Hello, Burnett, I cry as I board those 3 steps. Welcome back, Beltil, she says, and she flashes me a wide grin. Burnett and me, we never get to see each other over the summer. I give Burnett a peck on the cheek, and then I stand at the head of the aisle and look at the faces in the bus, trying to spot Clarice. Just as I see her waving to me from the 3rd row of seats, I hear something like a little snort down at my side. Sitting in the very 1st row of seats, directly behind Burnett, is a girl I have never seen before. Lordy, she is proper looking. I glance at my shift with the stitching popping apart and the stain on the hem, and at my dusty boots. Then I look at the new girl again. Her blonde hair is silky and shiny and pulled back from her face with a yellow and white striped ribbon. And she is wearing an outfit I think I might have seen in the Sears catalog. A yellow skirt and sweater set, very soft-looking, and black shoes that are patent leather like Mama's belt, and white tights. By lunchtime, this girl is going to be roasting. I can't help myself. I stare at her. I look at her hair ribbon, and then my eyes glide all the way down to those shoes, and then back up to the ribbon. The girl looks me in the eye and snorts again. Snorts like a pig. I frown at her. Nice dress, she whispers as I start to pass by her. Who are you? I ask. I'm Vanessa Mathers, and I came from Mechanicsville. Nice to meet you, I reply. I head for Clarice. While this has been going on, Burnett has been engaging in a daily struggle that takes place in front of my house. She has to turn the bus around. I'm the only kid who lives up here on the hill, so after Burnett reaches my stop, she groans and pants and lets out a sigh that puffs up her grey bangs while drips of sweat form on her temples. She turns and turns and turns that steering wheel as she swings the bus into our drive, backs it up, and heads us down the hill again. I am fully settled next to Clarice before Vanessa Mathers realizes what Burnett has been up to. Vanessa turns around and glares at me. You mean we had to drive all the way up here just to pick you up? She asks. I think about my conversation with Mama the night before, about being nice to new kids, and I hate creating hate and all. I don't want to judge Vanessa on her appearance, but I believe she is judging me on mine, which I don't like. Chase and Vernon, for instance. They got to know me before they showed their mean selves. Still, I decide to hold my tongue for the present. I just smile sweet-like at Vanessa Mathers. Vanessa. She makes quite a face at me before she swings her shiny hair around and rides the rest of the way to Coker Creek Elementary, with her eyes fixed on the back of Burnett's head. Clarice and me shrug our shoulders at each other, and then we start gabbing away, mostly about Miss Casey. But also we try to figure out what will happen on the edge of night this afternoon. We managed to ignore Chase and Vernon, who were sitting in the last few rows of seats throwing spitballs down the bus aisle. One hits Vanessa Mathers, and I know she feels it, because she squirms her head just a little. But she will not turn around and look. Only when Burnett glances at the boys in the enormous rearview mirror and says quietly, "Enough," do the boys finally stop. That Burnett, she could be a principal or something. By the time Burnett pulls up in front of Coker Creek Elementary, Clarice and me are busting with excitement. Let's try to sit in the first row, I say, next to each other, and right in front of Miss Casey. Okay, we wave goodbye to Burnett and skitter off the bus. Then we come to a screeching halt. Parents, I guess they are parents, are lined up along the walkway to the front doors of Coker Creek. Me and Clarice will have to pass between them like we are in a parade. Clarice frowns at me. She pushes her blue glasses nervously up and down the bridge of her nose. "What's going on?" she asks. "Don't know." The parents are standing there watching the kids that stream off the buses or climb out of cars. They are not saying a word, but their faces are thunderclouds. A few of them have handmade signs, which are not holding up yet. I try to read them upside down. I think I see a lot of words that begin with N, but I am afraid to stare at the signs for too long. I feel my face grow warm, like I'm embarrassed, even though I haven't done anything, and I know the underarms of my shift are turning a shade darker, because now I'm sweating. I jam my hands down at my sides so no one will see. "Come on," I say to Clarice, and we walk fast inside the building and directly to room 6. The door to our classroom is open, and someone has hung a huge yellow paper on it. Written on the sun is, "Room 6, Grade 5, Miss Casey, welcome." All those questions that were forming on my tongue, the ones about the angry parents and their signs, melt away at the sight of Miss Casey at her desk. Clarice and me, we zoom into the room and slide into 2 seats next to each other, right in front of Miss Casey. We can barely see her, though. A bunch of kids are clustered around her, and she's talking quietly to them, smiling. "Hey," a soft voice behind me. A nudge on my shoulder. I turn around. There is Little Boss. "Hey," I cry. Me and Little Boss have not seen each other all summer. There's a lot of people I don't see all summer. I grin at him. We have been friends since he moved here just about after 3rd grade began. Not everyone likes Little Boss, but I do, despite his faults, which are many. Whenever those faults come rearing up, I remind myself about what goes on at Little Boss's house. Now, I've never actually been at his house, but in a town the size of Coker Creek, everybody pretty much knows everybody else's business, or thinks they do. And a lot of what a person hears is true. Chase, he used to live next door to Little Boss. This was because Chase's father started his painting business and made enough money to buy a house closer on into town. Chase and Little Boss got to be friends, and Chase, he used to tell me and Clarice what he would hear on the nights Big Boss had been out drinking. I do not know how Little Boss lives with so much anger in his house, except that he doesn't have any choice. Clarice, she thinks it's kind of strange that Little Boss and me wound up friends, and to tell the truth, I'm not sure how that happened. All I know is that by the end of third grade, just about the time Chase's family moved, me and Little Boss were talking on the playground almost every day. One thing about me is I am a good listener. That's what Clarice says. Little Boss, he doesn't usually tell me anything profound. Maybe it's just that he knows he could if he ever wanted to. How's your summer? Little Boss asks me now. Good, yours? Good. He grins at me. I'm about to ask Little Boss what he did over the summer, knowing he'll answer me with nothing, when there is a scuffle around Miss Casey's desk. She is standing up, and the kids who have been talking to her drift away to find seats. I sit down in my chair fast, proud of myself for having claimed a desk in his prime location. Then I give a wave to Little Boss as he heads for the back of the room with Chase and Vernon. I bet they won't get away with sitting together there for long. Miss Casey is straightening things up on her desk. As I watch her, I feel like when I am in my yard and I see a rabbit or a toad or something and it doesn't see me, and I have the chance to observe it up close. Miss Casey, she is wearing the most wonderful rose-colored dress with a string of pearls around her neck. She has tiny gold bands on two of her fingers, not on her wedding band finger though. And from back here at my desk I can smell a very light scent, which it must be her perfume from France. I wonder all sorts of things about Miss Casey, where she lives, where she is from, who her friends are, what she eats for dinner, where she goes shopping. I have a tiny daydream about her in which she turns out to be long-lost aunt. I do love Miss Casey. Suddenly I hear a low roar from outside, voices raised, and I turn to look out the window. Miss Casey stops fiddling around at her desk and looks out the window too. Over to the left I can see some of those parents. Now they remind me of a swarm of bees whose hive have been disturbed. I watch Miss Casey watching them until I realize that someone is sitting down at the desk next to me. Not the desk Clarice has taken, but the one on my right. I turn my head. Looking back at me is Vanessa Mathers. Oh, I groan. Vanessa gives me a large fake smile, smooths her skirt across her lap, places her notebook neatly in her desk, and then folds her hands in front of her. I turn to Clarice and tug at her sleeve. Guess who's in our class, I whisper. But Clarice is not looking at me. She's not looking outside either. Her eyes are glued to the doorway to our room. Clarice, I whisper urgently. Clarice glances at me, raises her eyebrows, and looks back at the door. So finally, I follow her gaze. Standing uncertainly in front of that yellow sun is a colored boy. Right behind him, with her hands placed gently on his shoulders, is a colored lady. Excuse me, she says, quiet-like. Are you Miss Casey? Miss Casey turns away from the window. When she sees the lady and the boy, a wide smile spreads across her face. Miss Crape, she says. Darrell, welcome. Welcome to our class.